If you enjoy Fate-style action with master and servant, well-animated, balls to the walls, you look at that and say, goddamn, why can't more anime look like this? Mixed with those outlandish and goofy moments where your main character has so much violence applied to him for no reason other than for a laugh. And it's not only animated by Mappa, but also Madhouse, and if I'm not mistaken, this episode in its entirety I think was a Madhouse production, then look no further than this wonderful original series. I have to say, I've been looking forward to this one for quite a while, over 3 months minimum. I think it might be closer to 4 months, I'm forgetting to be honest, but I've been looking at this one for a while. Ever since I was reading into it, I discovered promotional material. It looked to me like this was going to be something that would be entertaining and badass, and it absolutely was. The idea of the show, there's actually some pretty original concepts behind what's happening, but first and foremost, this episode is about selling it to the viewer. Why should you carry on with this show when so much anime is being made, especially those hyped up source material adaptations? Why should you take 20 minutes out of your week to watch this? And I think they did a great job with the action, I think they did a great job with the character interactions, and I think they did a good job at selling what makes this world slightly different than what we've seen before. And the reason I compare to something like Fate is the idea of like a master and servant, and like the master almost provides the source of the servant's power, and the servant is the one who deals all the damage. But they do some interesting things with that kind of situation where it's built around music, that the creatures that they're fighting, they target music. Anything that's basically well planned, well performed, that's what they hate, that's what they despise. So this is a world that most people grow up not knowing what a song is, which is pretty tragic, I have to say. And for someone like the maestro of this show, Takt, who pretty much doesn't care about anything other than playing music or hearing music, which his servant, which, I mean, I have to say is absolutely fantastic. Now, according to my anime list, they call her Destiny, but in the show they call her Cosette, which I'm not sure what's going to happen with the name there, because the name of the actual show comes from both of their names combined, so I guess we'll see what happens there. Either way, the idea of her, all she wants to do is eat delicious food and then kick some ass. So ultimately, they make a rather good pair. Someone who wants to play music, and if you play music, bad things will come upon you. And then you have someone who just wants to fight and eat, and that's ultimately what they want to do. As then you have the kind of like big sister dynamic, Anna, who's trying to get them to New York, and that's their mission, but they just keep causing a ruckus. So you have this interesting world where, rather than it being like they're targeting mono or they're targeting this or that, it's almost like music is this vile thing to them. So to have characters who not only basically act like a conductor, like who pretty much is performing and conducting the play there, right? You have someone who, he literally sacrifices his arm to fuel her abilities, and it feels like, rather than it just being like someone fighting from a distance, rather he's playing a song, he's performing and giving literally his lifespan to power up her. And it's interesting because sometimes when you have those types of dynamics, they don't really push into the idea of what's truly at stake for the person kind of supplying the mana or supplying the fuel. And for him, we get a good taste of that in this episode. I mean, the first time we see them fight, he sacrifices an arm to power her up. And throughout this episode, when we get to the final battle of the episode, I love seeing how he's like literally being consumed by this like red mist. And it felt like he was being like abducted by whatever was trying to harm him. It really does say to me that the more he fuels her, the more danger he puts himself in, and I wouldn't be shocked in the slightest if later on throughout this show we learn that he's been like severely cutting his lifespan in half or something like that. And it's fun because in terms of the action, they take it serious, right? You're seeing destruction, you're seeing civilians flee for their life, you're seeing grotesque monsters that are really well animated, I have to say. I love the details to them. They don't look like anything I've seen as of late, which is a great bonus for the show. And to see how the characters are moving, the great line work, the colors, the vibrant expressions. I mean, this show looks goddamn amazing. And I mean, it was pretty clear it was going to based on all the promotional material that was laid out. And I love seeing just how into the animation they go to really sell it as this is catastrophic and it is absolutely going to be something you're going to be recommending for action alone. But the thing is that, you know, a series like even Fate, if you're not the biggest fan of it, there's so much action that, I think there's going to be a lot of people who will watch it just for that alone. What is going to sell the average anime fan on continuing? And as soon as the first battle ends, you see this man fall face first, and I'm just like, you know what? That's not going to be for everyone, but I love the fact that they don't mind poking fun at the silliness that can be anime at times. And this is absolutely something that you wouldn't want to see in live action. The action, you could say, okay, right, with the right CGI team, this and that, you can make really good monsters versus human in this whole situation. But a live action human falling flat on his face like that and getting up and, brushing it off, that's not what you would want to see. So it really is using the goofiness to the anime's medium's potential. I have to say, I really enjoyed, and really the interactions between the central three characters we got introduced to, completely different than anything I was expecting. The idea of someone who almost gave me like a Vanatis kind of stare and glances at times, but mostly is just bored, annoyed, and just wants to perform. I mean, they're at this diner at one point, and he almost plays the machine that would have literally summoned monsters to them. Like, that's just how into music he is, and for him, that's all he wants to do. And I love the idea of this girl who just, I think we saw her eat a buffet worth of food, from eating an entire pie. At the end of the episode, she has like a box of donuts, and she's bitching about the fact that who in their right mind, what type of lunatic would cut out the whole of the donut? We want the entire circle. Like, there's just so many back and forth, like, little styles of bickering, as you have, like, the mother type role of someone who's just trying to be the big sister, get them to their objective, but both of the problem children just won't behave. One's going off to play music, which would then, in return, summon bad things to happen, and a girl who's just gonna eat their wallet thin and then is just trying to fight. Like, the first time she runs off in the second battle, she comes back saying, I failed. And it's just like super deadpan, expressionless, and she just recharges the tank by eating more. I really was expecting that the central two characters were going to have something similar to the idea of the trio here, but just split apart into two. Someone serious and someone like either monotone, expressionless, or really goofy. So I think the idea of how they they kind of spread it out between these three. All three they don't have a stick up their ass, they're not super serious, and they're not too goofy. They kind of all have a bit of silliness to them, but like the idea of someone who just wants to play music, doesn't give a shit about anything else. You can see how the funniness can pop up, especially with him almost playing music in a diner that would have destroyed everything. The idea of this girl who's a badass, but ultimately just cares about food and just kind of states the obvious a little too much, or doesn't know how to use a door and is like, oh my god, you are going to cause so much damage. To them, the idea of just trying to group these two together to get back on the road. They have a great cast dynamic, and the idea of the world and how they kick off this episode with some beautiful imagery. I don't even know what to really call that type of style, but it pops up every now and again, even outside of anime. I love this type of design, and it really kind of gives you like a fairy tale storybook kind of design to really sell you on the world, and the fact that they transition from that to a mother reading a story for her children, and then they immediately drop the bombshell that they've never heard music. I think I've seen this in the anime community, people saying, oh, not being able to hear music isn't the end of the world. I personally disagree, and I know it's a very common thing. The idea of not being able to hear music and sounds like that would be catastrophic after having it integrated into our lives for so long. So I like that it's not the end of the world, so to speak, like they've never had tasty food, they've never had this. It's something that I think humanity takes for granted, the little things in life, the arts and things like that. So I like that the story's revolving around that, and some pieces of society might be able to sustain themselves and not be destroyed. I mean, we saw a map in this episode that shows us just how screwed this world is. But I have to say, it was silly, it was goofy, it was hilarious, but it was badass with an interesting concept, and I'm here for it. I really, really am. I'm excited. I hope more people will jump aboard with me. Tuesdays are going to be great with this one, but let me know your thoughts and feelings down below, favorite moment, and what do you hope to see going forward in the show. Leave a like if you enjoyed, subscribe if you're new around here. So until next time, everyone, please take care and have a good one.